Congratulations. Would you compare this game to the 6 that came before it? How do you feel you played?
I mean, as a whole, I think the offense played extremely well. The big thing I thought was that we really got the tempo going. There were times where we were able to catch them in illegal substitutions. Guys weren't getting lined up right away, and that's the whole thing that Coach was talking about. When he first got here, that game 4 through 6, it's going to click, and then when it does click, it's just going to become natural to you. And we were able to carry over what we did last week into this week, kept the momentum going. We're able to, Coach always says push the herd, get those big boys moving up front, which just puts so much stress on the defense, and we're able to get more plays off, and we're able to get plays off faster.
Having said that, and I know you guys did set a lot of, especially last week, can you talk a little bit about the contributions you guys got from special teams? I mean, the block punt to start, the long kickoff return made for an easy score, and also the defense with the turnovers they created.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I haven't looked at anything, but I'm sure we didn't have quite as few yards as we did last week because, and that's a good thing because we started, like you said, on a block punt. We start with turnovers. We get a special teams turnover, and on the next play we're able to score a touchdown off of it. So, getting all those yards is nice, setting records and all that, but at the end of the day, we put up 59 points, and we were able to cash those turnovers and those takeaways in, which is something that we talked about all week, that it was going to be a focal point for us.
I'm going to fill it in for Tom Schmeltz. You may remember me from years past. Coach called it a complete game. You've already talked about the offense and the special teams. You have to maybe the best effort by the defense this year, you think, from your perspective?
I think so. I'm not in their meeting rooms every day, and I don't know everything about them, but just from the naked eye, holding them to 10 points, creating turnovers, getting after the quarterback. I know what that's like. That's not fun. It's just when they're able to, force 3 and outs or force turnovers, we can feed off of them, the momentum that they bring, and we're able to carry that over. And it was clear as day that we get a turnover off special teams, we're able to turn that into points right away. We just kept momentum going throughout the whole game, and it was through all 3 phases.
Can you talk? Go ahead.
Matt, you talked about, or Coach talked about how it's got to a point now where you and he are almost thinking on the same page, and you almost kind of anticipate some of the calls that he might be making. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, certain situations, I'll see the formation and I'll know what's coming. On the touchdown pass to Burbs, I knew exactly what he wanted done with the ball, and it's just you get comfortable with your coach. For this being my second year under him, but really my first year playing, I'm starting to get a comfortability level with him, with Coach Lewis, and how they want things done. And it showed up today. It showed up in past games, but today there was quite a few times where I felt I knew exactly what the call was going to be.
Last week was the week where the offense set the records, but this is the week where you could argue it was your most complete team game. Which was more exciting?
I think this game, because we were able to do it, like you said, throughout the whole team. There's a lot of guys that put in a lot of work that we're able to get in at the end of the game, which is something that's our goal each game, is to get everybody in the game. There's guys that bust their butt every single day at practice, and for them to be able to get in the game and contribute, we really got the entire team in on this win, which means a lot. And then from the starters' perspective, special teams is on fire, defense is getting turnovers for us and just making plays, creating havoc, and we're just able to feed off of those 2 things and turn them into points. That's how you win football games.
Real quick, Matt, I'm sorry. We were trying to remember the last time that Coach won the toss and deferred. Talk a little bit about the challenges that these quarterbacks have coming into the Deloitte and playing in the wind like that.
Oh, man. I told Coach, I was like, so you're going to wait till I'm captain to defer. You know, we can't take the ball when I'm captain, but no, I mean it's tough throwing here. It really is. The wind can be nasty sometimes, and you know, I'm you know, like you said, playing here all the time, I get used to it. But you know, if you're not used to it, the ball can, you know, really, if you let it hang in the air, it can really take off on you. You know, if you don't throw a perfect spiral, you know, it can really take off on you. And you know, I've had it happen to me, you know, so many times, and I'm used to it. It's just sometimes you can't avoid it. In the Memphis game, it wasn't supposed to be that windy. It turned out to be a little windy. There were a couple shots down the field that, you know, were just barely overthrown, and you can see on film the wind taking the ball. So, you know, it's an advantage that we have, and it's actually, I think it's actually more of an advantage for the receivers because they're used to adjusting to the ball with the wind, where, you know, other teams come in here, they might not be, you know, used to it.
Isaiah Vasquez with BG News. Making along with the comments that was made earlier with anticipating the plays, do you think that there's sort of an element of team chemistry that's being built later on in the season?
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. We've grown so much from, you know, year one to year two, and really I think all that took place in the summer. You know, the coaches leave it up to us to run, you know, all the summer drills and practices and 7-on-7s and all that, and you know, we get comfortable with each other so that, you know, no matter what the coaches call, you know, we don't have any doubts about it. And then, you know, you go through camp and you start to build that chemistry up, and you know, now that it's been past that breaking point, like Coach said, week 4 to 6, you know, we feel very comfortable with the entire offense, you know, the entire playbook, that no matter what's called, you know, we don't have any problems with it at all.